can't see them.
Baptiste.
Cool.
Yep.
Great. Thank you to spend time with us and to come here first.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, you know why you're here, right?
I'm here because I made a film, I think, with Oscar Sharp called Sunspring about a year ago.
Yeah, how did you come with this idea?
Well, Oscar and I met at NYU, or New York University, in 2015. We had a class together called Surveillance Documentary. And Oscar approached me because at the time I was working with generative text systems. And Oscar had always wanted to make a computer-generated screenplay and film it. And so he brought this idea to me, and we started working on it together then. And we didn't get very far because I wasn't using any sort of machine learning. I was just using simple algorithms like what are called Markov chains, context-free grammars, and other types of algorithms like that that don't really involve machine learning of any type. And then about a year later, I made a poem using what's called a long short-term memory recurrent neural network, machine learning algorithm. And I sent it to Oscar, and he really liked it and asked if we could generate a screenplay using the same technique. And we did, and that became Sunspring.
So, can you clarify those terms, which most of people don't understand? So, there is some difference to make between machine learning, deep learning.
Yeah.
This is something.
So deep learning is a type of machine learning. Deep learning is machine learning is the general name for the whole field of systems that adapt, that can absorb information on their own and make decisions on their own about how to process the information they're presented with. Deep learning is a specific subfield of machine learning involving what are called artificial neural networks. An artificial neural network is a very large statistical model that can be used for a number of tasks, but it's basically like an algorithm simulator. So it, rather than writing an algorithm, if there's let's say there's a very complicated algorithm, for example, the algorithm that would allow you to determine if there's a bird in a picture. Now, if you just sat down and started to write that algorithm, you'd be like, we'll look for a beak, look for wings. Those are very difficult things to tell a computer how to do. So it's much easier to let the computer form its own representation of what a bird is by showing it millions of pictures of birds and then letting it understand how those pictures are different from other pictures on its own. And that's what a neural network does.
Okay, simple definition of algorithm.
An algorithm is a recipe. So an algorithm can be as simple as mix 1 cup flour with 1 cup sugar, 3 eggs, put in the oven at 300 degrees for 2 hours. That's probably a terrible cake, but that is an algorithm. It's a list of instructions for a computer. And they include a number of elements that we find in all programming languages.
And I read somewhere that a good algorithm is the one that doesn't consume so much energy and goes fast or something like this.
Well, yeah. So, a good algorithm is one that accomplishes what the programmer wants it to do. So that can mean a number of things. People complain about, algorithms that run too slowly or algorithms that use too much memory or too much storage. There's a whole field of optimization involving algorithms, and programmers use what's called big O notation to denote how fast an algorithm is. So if an algorithm is O of n, that means it's linear speed. If it's O of n squared, that means it's quadratic. It's very technical.
No, I'm lost.
Yeah.
But okay, it's maybe too deep.
Yeah.
It was for my personal knowledge,
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay.
Let's go back to the movie.
Yeah.
So he said, amazing, let's do it with a script.
Let's do it with a script, yeah. And he said, I have this...
Where were you? What happened? So you sent the poem and?
I sent the poem, and he said, this is great. He said, I'm feeling feelings from this. Let's try it with a screenplay. And he also said, the Sci-Fi London 48-hour film contest is coming up next month. And if you can get a model ready, we will make a movie for that. And I also know this guy, Thomas Middleditch, who will be in the movie with us. And so We did it. In a month, I was able to train a model on about 170 movie screenplays and 5 complete TV show screenplays. And we used that model to generate a script for a short film.
So you build a machine, an IA, but you don't like this term, but you build a machine in which you you introduced all this content.
Exactly. So the machine, the name of the type of machine it is, it's called a long, short-term memory recurrent neural network. And it reads screenplays letter by letter over and over again. It starts out with no understanding of language, no understanding of what a word is, but it learns what words are, how to make them, and how to put them together into grammatically correct sentences over the course of about a week.
It's like a kid which is learning to read by itself.
Exactly. Except for it's learning to read and write. And it does it very fast compared to a kid.
Where did you get your content from?
We got it from the internet, everything we could find. I basically used all the science fiction screenplays I could find on the open internet. So that ended up being a lot of popular movies and TV shows with big fan bases that had posted the screenplays somewhere where we could find them.
Great. And then look very fast. So you won a prize.
We got an honorable mention and we made the top 10 of the film contest. We did not get top 3 because they were so horrified by what we did. In fact, one of the judges said that he would give us top marks if we never did it again.
Was he scared?
I think a little bit. I think that we were dealing with a conservative group of judges who hadn't seen anything like this before. I mean, not many people had seen any movie like this before. So really, it was a new experiment, and it was the kind of thing that I think makes people think about what a more advanced version of it would look like and how that would affect society and filmmaking.
So we've understood through this document we are doing that you have the ability to scratch things, to erase things, to change things, but you decided to keep it dada or surrealistic.
We wanted to show people what the machine could do on its own. Obviously, curation is possible, obviously, editing is possible, but for the first experiment, for the first film made from a computer-generated screenplay, let me say that again, for the first film made from a computer-generated screenplay, we wanted to show the raw output in the most raw form. So we did not edit it for sensicality, we did not edit it for content, except there was one scene we took out because it involved a truck. We didn't have a truck to shoot with. But otherwise, yeah, we kept it exactly as it came out of the machine. And we also did not make 100 screenplays and choose the best one. We made one and we shot it.
So you prepared your machine, your robot, your IA, whatever. You came to this London festival, mm-hmm. and you just hit enter.
Well, I was in New York. Oscar was in LA making the movie. But yeah, essentially yes. I hit a button on my computer, and a screenplay printed out on the thermal printer I was using. It's in the end of the movie. You can see me, my little cameo.
We ask for this footage full screen.
Okay, sounds good.
If you can give it to us, it would be very good.
Yeah, I'll try.
Yes, it would be maybe behind you while you're talking about
Okay.
it. You see the magic of television.
Sounds good.
But we're touching a whole new dimension of magic with this technology. What does it change in terms of your field, creating movies? Well,
my field is not creating movies. That's Oscar's field.
Okay.
My field is generative text. So I work with language. I'm a language scientist, and I'm a researcher in AI or machine intelligence, whatever you want to call it. But I can't remember the question now. What was the question?
What does it change in the creative process?
Oh, what does it change in the creative process? So it changes a number of things, or it makes a number of things possible. If you think about building a sculpture, there's a couple ways to do that. You can build it layer by layer from the ground up, or you can take a block of marble and find the sculpture inside the block of marble. So we want to show that there are new kinds of writing that are possible, new interfaces for writing that are possible, and new forms of writing that are possible thanks to machine intelligence and the current state of the art with respect to computation.
And you said some of the
Yes, thank you.
Some of the judges were scared. What other reaction did you get from your friends,
My friends all loved it, but the other reactions we got were just that it was nonsense. Like I think Slate magazine said it's not a screenplay, which is fair. But we wanted to provoke those questions because obviously we could have edited it, we could have curated it, as I said, but we didn't. We wanted to show what the machine could do on its own without any sort of prompting or not any sort of prompting. We did prompt it without any sort of human intervention.
So we can say that the author of this movie is a machine.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you say it?
The author of this movie is a machine.
So it changes this a lot. My brain is going so fast that I can not formulate it. But
I mean, it's a challenge to personhood in certain ways. For some people. For me, it's not. I think that I've come to believe that art is not something that's necessarily unique to humans. I think art is something that is broader than that and is bigger than that. Just like AI is something that is bigger than us. It doesn't reflect us as individuals. It reflects us as humans. So it's not our job as individuals to decide what is and is not art. It's our job in the aggregate to do that. So I think that over time, as these machines become more sophisticated, our definitions of things like art and language and culture are going to expand to include things that previously weren't thought of as human. However, I don't think that it's accurate to say that technology is not human, because we have always been cyborgs. We have short guts because we used cooking fires. From the earliest ages of humanity, we've had technology integrated into every part of our bodies and every part of our mind. That's what separates us from our primate ancestors, the fact that we use tools. So to think of technology as an other, as non-human, becomes more problematic the more advanced the technology gets. And I think that it could even be dangerous in the future to think of it that way.
Keep on talking about that. Why,
Okay.
why is it going to be dangerous? Because there is this...
I don't know. I mean, I think it could be.
So you follow Stephen Hawking in that way? Stephen
I don't agree with Stephen Hawking, actually. I think he's very skeptical of AI because he's still attributing, he's a very, very smart person, but he's still attributing the science fiction definition of AI to the scientific definition of AI, which is quite different. There's this very good quote by Dijkstra, who was a famous computer scientist, and he said, Dijkstra said, considering whether a machine can think is like considering whether a submarine can swim. So we have to think about these human terms that we use, apply to machines sometimes. We have to stop doing that, because even if a machine is doing something that may appear human, it might be doing it quite differently than the way we do it. So the same vocabulary might not apply.
But your machine has a kind of singularity. Can we say that?
I mean, I'd love it if you said that. I don't know if that's true. I don't think it's a singularity. I think that a singularity is something that people are going to debate about for a long time. I think it's arguably true that the singularity, the Ray Kurzweil singularity, has already occurred. Maybe it happened 10 years ago. Because the fact of the matter is that AI, at least the way we think of it in movies, has become more of a design problem than a computational one. We have machines that can answer questions. We have machines that can recognize things in images. And the fact of the matter is that intelligence, as we think of it, is largely dependent on taking sensory perception and translating that into reaction. And the fact of the matter is that machines can do this now in the same way we do. They can do it with their eyes, they can do it with their fingers sometimes, or their mechanized hearing devices, their microphones. So, and they can take that information in and process it and have a reaction. So the fact of the matter is that we're sort of already there. It's glitchy, it's not perfect, it has yet to be perfected, it may never be perfected, but the core functionality is there. So it's up to us to decide when the singularity has occurred, so to speak. I don't think the singularity is something that will happen in an instant. I think it's something that happens over time. I think that I don't even know if I agree with the terms of it at all.
Okay, we can even discuss and debate. You said
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
going to take years. Do you think that, because this is the main purpose of our work here, and I heard and understood that it's also yours.
Okay.
Are artists going to disappear, going to die, going to be useless?
Artists have nothing to worry about. Artists are not going to disappear or die. They're only going to be given new tools to make better art. I mean, if you look at a game like, well, for example, here's my favorite example, the camera. The camera did not make painting irrelevant. Painting, it used to be the case that making a photorealistic image took innate talent and years of training, and the camera automated that task. The camera didn't make painting irrelevant. It really set painting free, and I guess what we're trying to do is set writing free, in a way.
In your case?
In my case.
But you know for sure some other examples of
Yeah,
art.
so I mean the other example that I like to use is what's called advanced chess or centaur chess, which is chess where both players have access to a computer the entire time. And what's apparent from studying those games is that when players have access to a computer while they're playing, the level of chess goes up, even compared to computers playing each other, and certainly compared to just humans playing each other. They're dealing with more complex situations, more complex problems, and more complex modes of play. And I think that can tell us something about how we should be making art. And I'm not saying that complexity is what makes art good, but I do think that complex considerations, that an artist fully understanding everything they're doing and everything they're saying can only serve to make the art better. And that's something computers can assist with and will be able to assist with in the future.
And it goes through to a kind of complexity somehow.
Complexity, I like
somehow,
that.
Yeah, yes, right?
Sure, yeah. So what do you mean by complexity, though? I'm a little
It's
confused.
simple interface or processing.
Yes.
To do very complex things.
Exactly. So you're taking something that was once very complex, something that once only humans could do, recognize a bird, for example. That was until 5 or 6 years ago, something that only humans could do.
Cats can do it.
Cats can do it too, you're right. Humans and animals, let's say,
Yes.
right? So you see it's already not exclusive to humans.
Mm.
But to recognize a bird and say, that's a bird, cats wouldn't do that, I don't think, unless
No.
you have a very special cat.
You have to follow him.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So to say that's a bird, that's a dog, that's a tree, that's a table, that's something that only humans could do, and now machines can do it. And it's very promising for a lot of applications, helping blind people see, helping assistive robots get around environments, helping, it's so much broader than just image captioning, right? A machine that can talk about what it's seeing in human language is a machine that understands its environment and is perceptive, and that's very powerful.
You're the father of this computer who did its own play. Are you an artist?
I'm of course an artist. The software is the art.
Which do art?
Which does what?
Which does art.
Yeah, I don't know if the screenplay is art, but the software is.
Why?
I don't know. It is. I mean, I don't. It's art because it was made with intentionality and it was made to be art. So, and it provokes thought and it provokes feeling in people. Regardless of whether the screenplay itself does, the fact that a machine exists that can produce infinite screenplays like this one is designed to provoke thought, and that's what makes it art.
We're almost there. I have 3 last questions. The first of them is: do you know what is going on in the machine? Can you trace what's going on?
And you can't any more than I could cut open your brain and tell you what you're thinking, right? The machine speaks its own language of numbers that we do not understand. Maybe one day we will, but these deep learning systems internally are so complicated that they are not human readable. So there's a good quote that one of my friends, Kevin Slavin at the MIT Media Lab, uses quite often, which is that we're writing things that we can no longer read. And to me, that means that we must be careful, because when we can't read something, we don't exactly know every facet of it. We don't exactly know everything that it's doing. And that means that we need to watch out for bias. We need to watch out for, we need to make sure that the machines we create don't reflect the same prejudices, the same biases that we have as humans. We need to make, because if we just have a whole generation of racist, misogynist robots, what's the real point of that? Especially if we're going to use them for important tasks. It's important for our machines to be unprejudiced.
Unprejudiced?
Yeah, so like if you there's a big problem in machine learning where, because human data, machines learn from data that we've produced. And because we're prejudiced, the machine learns the same prejudice. So there's examples of that, like, I'm trying to think of a good example and I can't. But there are examples of it. And it's recognized as a major problem in machine learning.
And it just saw the two versions of Ghost in the Shell, the manga and the movie.
Yeah.
And they are talking about this ghost. So is this a known thing, a ghost in this shell?
The Ghost in the Shell. It's been a long, so I haven't seen the new one. It's been a long time since I saw the original. Don't see it. Okay. It's been a long time since I saw the original anime of that. I don't know. I think that intelligence lives in a shadowy place, and differentiating the intelligence from the darkness around it is impossible, at least at this point.
We're gonna get the pleasure to stream your new movie. Can you talk to us about it a bit?
You may get the pleasure of streaming it. I don't know who has the rights to it yet. I need to figure that out.
Okay.
But I can talk a little bit about it. It's starring David Hasselhoff and Sarah Hay, and it takes place at a movie studio. So we sort of did a meta version of Sunspring, and we're really pleased with it. It involved 6 different models this time. So we had a Shakespeare model, a Golden Age Hollywood model, a Aaron Sorkin model, so the screenwriter who wrote The Social Network and The West Wing. And we had a model trained on, excuse me, a model trained on David Hasselhoff's 1980s TV shows. And then finally a model, we reused one of the models from Sunspring that wrote the monologue at the end. We had David Hasselhoff deliver his own monologue using that same model. Now, was that 6? Did I say 6 or not?
We can translate 6 by 5 and 5
But
by
I held
6.
up 6 fingers.
Yes, we can triple it in the green screen.
Let me make sure I got the names of the models right, because I have them right here.
And why so much models?
Because we wanted to show how variant the machine can be, how it can speak in so many different voices, that it's not just limited to science fiction. Because I think people thought when they saw Sunspring that the machine could only talk in one way. We wanted to show how varied it can be and how different it can be. But the...
maybe we're gonna wait that you...
What?
What was he saying?
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine.
So I got it. Yeah, so it was the 6 models we trained were David Hasselhoff. Oh, I knew I forgot one.
I'm so sorry, but when you're telling that, can you just hide your phone? Because
yeah, let me look at these real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so the models we trained, 6 of them, were David Hasselhoff, Shakespeare, Golden Age Hollywood, Aaron Sorkin, who wrote The West Wing and The Social Network. We used the model from Sunspring that wrote the monologue at the end, so we call that one the soliloquizer.
The soliloquizer?
Soliloquizer.
Okay.
For soliloquy, but and then the last one was actually not a neural network. It was what's called a context-free grammar, and it was trained on French ballet choreography. So we used that because Sarah Hay, one of our actors, is a world-class ballet dancer, and we wanted to do some generative ballet with her, and she did it, and she did a beautiful job.
Okay, this is my last question. What I really thought when I saw your movie, I thought, wow, we are back to the Dada and Surrealists, which were people who were trying to escape from the art world, trying to break everything.
Yeah.
And aren't artists those days so pressured by culture, financial pressure, and everything. So maybe this kind of technology can help them to breathe again, or to take deep breath.
I think we're trying to set something free here, like I said before, and I think that we are trying to break the art world in a way that makes people start making new kinds of movies that we haven't seen before. Because we've all seen the same movie, the same TV show, so many times now. And we want something new to emerge from whatever we create now with these machines.
What I read, it's going to end now, what I read about the Go player who beat the best player, the guy was beaten said, I never saw a so beautiful move.
Move 37.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And this is also a way to show another way, which we couldn't think about.
Yeah. Well, it's not that we couldn't think about it, I think. I think it's that it might have taken us 100,000 years to think of it. Maybe that's another way to put it.
So we are gaining time?
Yeah. Essentially, we're gaining time and we're gaining extra brain power. We're expanding what's in here. It's about adding more capacity to what we already have and helping us reach beyond our native capacities to produce new kinds of work. That's always been the case with technology.
But the industry now can just play with artificial intelligence and produce many things. I don't have to deal with feeding the artist.
Oh no, the artist's still there. The artist doesn't go away. The artist is just the operator of the machine. And the artist makes the machine part of themselves.
But you are the artist, but what about the author? Who was the artist before?
Which artist?
The author, a screenplay author, a screenplay writer.
Oh, the writers of the screenplay that went into it? So I think there's a few different ways we can look at it. We can look at it as I conjured their ghosts somehow, to bring back your ghost analogy. Or we can look at it as it's like I read those screenplays and I was inspired by them to write something. But instead of reading them physically, I had my machine read them. Because what the machine produced was original and was not a plagiarism of the screenplays that it absorbed. It was a new screenplay. So it's very much like I read the screenplays and just wrote a screenplay based on what I had understood from those screenplays.
When will be the time when I can buy one of your IA to be also myself augmented?
How much money do you have on you right now?
I have one Samsung S7 without battery.
I don't know if that's enough. Soon, it's not quite ready for consumers yet, but Oscar and I are working with a couple of corporate clients to develop versions that will be useful for them and for their work. And we're trying to get it out there because we think it's so useful in so many ways to have a machine that can generate 1 million movie titles for your movie, that you can go through and pick the one you like the best, or edit it down to the ones that you like the best, and then have someone else decide. We think it's so useful to have a machine that can break your writer's block when you're stuck and write the next line for you. We think that there's going to be a huge demand for this in the future among creatives, and we hope that the technology continues to improve, and we hope that acceptance of the technology continues to advance.
So it's good with this weed movement. We could smoke weed forever and we don't give a shit about our memory.
Exactly, we can just keep smoking weed forever.
But still,
it
would be my last point. Still, there will be then something not really equal between a guy which is writing scripts with the technology and the one which is writing them without it.
I think that is what always happens inevitably with technology, that there ends up being a divide between those who adopt it and those who don't. And either the people who don't use the technology adapt their practices, or they will eventually start using the technology. There was this thing of like 10 years ago in online poker, where people started using heads-up displays that would track the statistics on the other players at the table. And within a year, every player was using it because if you didn't use it, you'd lose. And so it might be the case in the future that you need this technology in order to make a blockbuster screenplay. But not everybody has to make a blockbuster screenplay. Some people can, I mean, it doesn't mean that just the invention of the camera, like I said before, didn't make painting irrelevant. Just because there's a new way to write doesn't mean the old way is now irrelevant and dead.
It's like assuming for the...
Stop. J'ai besoin que tu reclapes, Baptiste, s'il te plaît.
We can say it off. For the, I'm dreaming of Olympic Games where they allow drugs in the same way to
That'd be great.
granted, but they can't assume it. But this would be how the guy with a
Well, I think it's more like the guy with the exoskeleton, right?
Stuff.
The Oscar Pistorius, like the.
J'ai besoin de faire des cover shots. I just need 5 more minutes to make some cover shots.
Okay.
For the interview, okay? Can you sit down?
So je fais, ah oui, je look at you when you talk to me.
Tu vas me donner ton
So we can.
Okay.
It's a cut, you know, way it goes to cut.
I see. I'm just gonna check out my computer. Should I stay
Yeah, of
seated?
course.